ministers from Australia, India, Japan and the United States pledged on Monday to bolster maritime security in the Indo-Pacific region. Foreign ministers from Australia, India, US and Japan also collectively, which is known as the Quad grouping, convened in Tokyo on Monday to explore strategies for enhancing maritime security and strengthening cyber defences. In a joint statement, leaders expressed serious concern about the militarization of disputed features and coercive and intimidating maneuvers in the South China Sea, including dangerous use of Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels.
By bolstering maritime security.
Uncertainty surrounding the international order as well as the international situation has been increasing, with Russia continuing its aggression in Ukraine. Attempts to unilaterally change the status quo by force in the East China Sea and South China Sea, and the launch of ballistic missiles by North Korea.
Charting a course for a more secure and open Indo-Pacific and Indian Ocean region by bolstering maritime security and domain awareness. In practical terms, what does this mean? It means strengthening the capacity of partners across the region to know what's happening in their own waters.
To how we respond to the circumstances we face. And it is critical to how we influence the shaping of the region and the world in which we live. We want a peaceful, stable and prosperous region, a region where sovereignty is respected and in which competition is managed responsibly.
The overall messaging is that our four countries, all democratic polities, pluralistic societies and market economies, are working together for a free and open Indo-Pacific, for a rules-based order and for global good. That, by itself, is a powerful stabilizing factor in an uncertain and volatile world.
India's foreign minister also mentioned that it is crucial to ensure all aspects of our cooperation are aligned. The unified message from four countries underscores their commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, advancing global well-being.
It is important that we all connect the dots. The overall messaging is that our four countries, all democratic polities, pluralistic societies and market economies, are working together for a free and open Indo-Pacific, for a rules-based order and for global good. That, by itself, is a powerful stabilizing factor in an uncertain and volatile world.
Minister Jaishankar also highlighted that the bilateral and trilateral relationships within the Quad are effective, with progress in one area bolstering others, including other like-minded countries.
There is a strong interactive dynamic between the Quad and our respective bilateral and even trilateral relationships. Progress on one front strengthens the other and thereby enhances the value of the Quad. We have been able to engage together with some other countries in this region in furtherance of a shared agenda.
The joint statement of Quad stressed on providing tangible benefits for the region. The statement said that Quad is committed to a free and open Indo-Pacific. These are the takeaways from the joint statement. Upholding the free and open rules-based international order, that Quad is up for ASEAN's unity and centrality and the ASEAN-led regional architecture, including the East Asia Summit and ASEAN Regional Forum. Quad also emphasizes the importance of United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea to resolve maritime claims and disputes. The statement also says Quad is concerned about the situation in the East and South China Seas and coercive and intimidating maneuvers. Quad is there to promote supplier diversification and enhancing semiconductor supply chains among members. It further said that Quad establishes Quad Cyber Ambassadors meeting to discuss capacity building projects, and also mentioned that Quad is against terrorism and violent extremism in all its forms and manifestations, including cross-border terrorism. Quad calls for concerted action against all UN-listed terrorist groups, including Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and their proxy groups. Quad, in a joint statement, further says unequivocally condemned the terror attacks on October 7, 2023 in Israel. Let's quickly go live over to DD India correspondent Chris Gilbert, who is joining us live from Tokyo. Good afternoon, Chris. Now, let's first talk about the strongly worded Quad joint statement that I was just going through the big takeaways, but not only reiterating the overall expansive agenda of the Quad grouping, its relevance in the international politics, but also taking certain countries head on their expansionism, especially in the South China Sea, without naming China, but a direct message there, plus those countries who harbor terror infrastructure as well.
Yeah, it's not head-on, it's more side-on or diagonally. As you mentioned, they didn't name any names, they didn't say China, but there's no, guessing about what they're referencing. Right. It is the several run-ins between the coast guards of China and the Philippines in the South China Sea, which have escalated over, progressive months, coming to a head just a month or so ago. Now, those two countries have come up with their own conduct or their own code of conduct very recently about how to pursue their naval, ventures from here. We'll see how long that lasts and how well that works. But the Quad at the moment is still a resurgent group, which is finding their footing. Dr. Jaishankar said that himself, that it wants to be more than a forum. It wants to have practical applications, and they have the tools, and now they just want to figure out how to use them most efficiently for their common goals. By all means, it seems like this joint statement, based on others, and according to political scientists I've been speaking to, they've found the footing for how to negotiate some of the different security perspectives of the respective countries inside Quad. They've found some of the common language about how to speak, how to address the South China Sea, the Indo-Pacific, Ukraine, as we saw today at the October 7th incident. So they've found this common footing, and now it's a matter of implementing initiatives, some of which they also mentioned, like a new maritime legal dialogue, right, domain awareness, surveillance of illegal shipping, and of course, most importantly, protecting that $5 trillion of trade which flows through the area every year as well.
All right. How do you look at India's pitch where our minister spoke about how the Quad is actually embedded in the respective foreign policies? Now, India clearly one of the front runners in the Quad grouping, pitching for free and fair open Indo-Pacific, where he specifically mentions about the engagements within the Quad. So India's role in the Quad grouping, Chris.
Yeah, India's role in the Quad grouping is very focused on its maritime issues and maritime security. India, of course, is a vast nation. And if it looks to the north of it, the security issues are much different, and the trade and the economic issues are much different than if it looks to the south of it. And the Quad grouping, according to political scientists I've been speaking to, has less use for the India of the north than the India of the south. Right. And so as it looks to itself as a maritime country, that is where partnerships with Australia, Japan, the US, and by extension beyond the Quad, other countries like the Philippines or South Korea, that's where that really becomes useful, because these countries have found, as I say, common footing on their foreign policy. They have mutual security challenges. Both the US and Japan, their national security strategies rank China as the #1 security challenger in the region. Now, while these countries, including India, may not use or direct, may have different balancing for how much they can say and how much they're willing to put on the line in their relationships, their bilateral relationships with some of those challenges. There is common ground between them.
And that is what is important, and that's what really matters going forward as far as Quad's overall relevance is concerned. Thank you very much, Chris. It was always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us live from Tokyo. And now we are also very glad to be joined by a special guest on this broadcast, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, former senior diplomat, joining us here. Good afternoon, sir, Ambassador Kumar. Now, if you could just decode for the viewers of India and abroad who are watching this, the overall takeaways or overall overarching agenda of the respective members of the Quad. Also, the fact Minister Jaishankar pitched this time more bigger and substantive role of Quad's commitment of doing global good, and he talks about its resonance far beyond. What do you think is the message here?
Thank you very much, Sakal, for having me. No, the backdrop against which this Quad meeting is taking place is important, because your viewers must know that there was supposed to be a Quad summit with Biden participating in it in the month of January for various reasons, including his own campaign, ex-campaign, I should say, because he's no longer a candidate. Yes. For all of these reasons, that did not happen. So the fact that this has happened is important, because a lot of people were actually arguing that the Quad is kind of, weakening. And there was therefore, it was very important for the meeting itself to take place. Obviously, the summit itself will have to now wait for the American president to get elected. And that will probably happen early next year. So this was an important meeting. I think as Dr. Jaishankar said, this was 4 countries which are democratic, pluralistic, and market economies sending a message. That's point number 1. Point number 2, as your correspondent in Tokyo somewhat gingerly pointed out, there was no doubting who the message was addressed to. When you express strong concern about East China Sea, South China Sea, militarization, no change of status quo, conforming to UNCLOS, you are only targeting one country, Sakal. Yes. Let's not kid ourselves. So this is a clear message to China. That's the second. Third, in order to counter the impression that the Quad is just a talking shop, a number of specific projects have been outlined. The most important for India is that maritime domain awareness, which was hitherto confined to the Pacific, is now going to be extended to the Indian Ocean. This is something that I attach a lot of importance to, because I've always felt for India, it is the Indian Ocean which is actually more important than the Pacific theater, in which the US, Australia, Japan are heavily invested. So I'm extremely happy to note that Indian Ocean is now getting emphasis within the Quad. There are a number of references to cyber security, number of references to health. I also think the Quad statement has made some very important observations on both the Ukraine conflict and the Gaza conflict. I think that is also worth going through. In both of those conflicts, the Quad countries push for diplomacy, push for conflict resolution, and so on. So all in all, I would say this is a very substantive joint statement from the Quad countries.
And India's role herein going forward for pitching secure, prosperous Indo-Pacific, but amongst the grouping, the way Minister Jaishankar specifically said, that this is not a talk shop, quote unquote. And there is a broader level of engagement within the Quad countries.
I think I'm going to put it bluntly, as always. Sakal, there is no Quad without India.
Yes.
The other 3 countries are allies. They are military allies of each other. They have a security relationship which ties them. Without India, Quad makes no sense, because you might as well then say we are only going to have a grouping among allies, which, by the way, they do. Since the last Quad meeting, the important thing is there has been the birth of Squad. I don't know if you've heard of Squad, which is United States, Japan, Australia, and Philippines. And all the 4 are allies of each other. India is not an ally of any of these countries, and therefore India is what lends ballast, seriousness, and foundational power to the Quad. And that is why Quad focuses on all the non-traditional angles of security. The traditional security issues are dealt with by allies like the United States, Japan, Australia, Philippines, and so on. But the non-traditional issues, whether you're talking of cybersecurity, whether you're talking public health, whether you are talking connectivity, whether you are talking issues like tech. For example, there is a paragraph devoted to critical and emerging technologies, and that is part of non-traditional economic security. And they're talking of semiconductor chains, and they're talking in terms of resilient supply chains. So all those things, I think, make for India's vital contribution in this Quad meeting.
All right, the fact that India will be hosting the Quad Leaders Summit this year, this could also be seen as a big build-up for that. Meanwhile, it's such a pleasure talking to you, Ambassador Kumar. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Thank you. And let's quickly go across to DD India's Akshay Dogre, who's also been following this story very, very closely, joining us for a quick perspective. Akshay, overall messaging as far as India is concerned, and a bigger message to the rest of the world as far as the consolidation of a Quad combine amidst current polity is concerned. Because if you look at the joint statement, it's covered almost everything under the sun.
Well, absolutely. In fact, it was a long and very expansive joint statement that was issued by the Quad leaders, in fact, the foreign ministers and the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Antony Blinken. When they met, they in fact held discussions on a range of issues now, be it the topic of free and fair trade in the Indo-Pacific region, be it the Indian Ocean region, be it terror financing, terror harboring. So all of these things were issued. Global security matters that concern these four countries and matters that are beyond, the Quad grouping. For example, the issues that are being faced by individual nations in the Indo-Pacific region, the ASEAN nations, the problem that they are facing as far as these transgressions are concerned, the hegemonic tendencies of the Chinese authorities are concerned in terms of stopping the countries from free and fair trade in the South China Sea, and in fact transgressing into regions such as Indian Ocean region, carrying out surveillance activities and all of that. India is in a unique position, in fact, Sakal, as far as tackling that particular concern is concerned. We have seen that in the last few years, India has in fact stepped up its own voicing of these issues, and in fact the Leaders Summit that is likely to be held quite soon in India, that will be also a big message. In fact, remembering the last Leaders Summit that took place in Tokyo, I can recall Akshay. I was there, and even while the Quad Leaders Summit was going on, the threats were indirectly made by China. In fact, there was an air exercise that was conducted jointly with Russia, just near the borders of the aerial borders of Japan, where all the four leaders were present.
Yes.
So, the messaging
Akshay,
is quite clear.
Yes. All right. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you for giving us that perspective on our lead story of the day. Thank you.